or something like that. Okay, so let's dig right in. I want to talk to you tonight about the topic of boundaries. Now, you probably know already that I like to talk about things that have not been spoken about before. I like to approach things in a different way. I feel like we've been beating a dead horse for 20 or 30 years now, and that some new approaches are really needed. And I think that we've kind of already heard it all. So I want to approach this topic from a new angle, and I hope that you can just be open, even if you think I'm getting a little too woo-woo, a little too far out there. I'm just going to ask you to please keep an open mind, because you never know. Maybe there'll be one thing that resonates that can help you, and that's the only reason why I'm here, is to hopefully give you something new. So here's the thing about boundaries, is that traditionally speaking, we think about boundaries as what to do or say when other people are coming at us in a way that is disrespectful or in a way that we don't like, right? That's usually what we're thinking about. So in other words, we think about boundaries in terms of what is acceptable treatment of us by other people. That is totally a thing. That is totally and completely a thing. However, I'm going to save that part of the conversation for later, because I want to step outside the box first, and then go back to these more traditional ideas. Okay. So one thing I want to talk to you about is our more, I'm going to say energetic boundaries, because I don't have a better way to describe it. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this. Because many of us are highly sensitive people. Highly sensitive. Everything hurts. And we are very much affected by other people, by arguing, by emotions. We are very much impacted by things that happen around us. And that is because our boundaries, this is a phrase I heard from the lovely Colette Baron-Reid. She says that we have porous boundaries. Now, I'm not just talking about intellectual boundaries, that somebody disses us and we say this or we do that or we let them get away with it. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you're in the presence of somebody who's toxic for you, how you react, not just in your mind, but just throughout your whole body. How for some of us, when we're in the presence of somebody that is really bad for us, that we just react emotionally, we react physically, we really feel it. In my mind, this topic relates to boundaries. Okay? And some people might say, well, we're allergic to people. And I think that's really an interesting way of thinking about it, being allergic to people, right? It's not that we sneeze and our eyes get watery. It's that our whole body reacts, but in a different way, in the presence of somebody who is clearly toxic for us. And those are hard to draw boundaries in situations like that. It's very difficult because we feel like we can't justify what we need to do. So we're going to hold on to that thought of having to justify. Okay. Another kind of boundary that I find very interesting, and I think I might have actually coined this term, what I call auditory trauma. Now, if you've heard this term before, you've probably heard it in terms of maybe being in earshot of a bomb going off, or some kind of loud noise. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about growing up in an environment where everybody's yelling and screaming and glasses are getting smashed against the wall and things like this. And so we become very highly sensitive to sound. Okay, for example, people arguing. Once that sound level gets to a certain kind of pitch, it triggers our anxiety. For example, okay, that's really most of that idea has to do with the sounds of people around us and the energy of the way the energy that's being passed back and forth. Okay, and for me, that also is a topic that has to do with boundaries, because that's a situation that we need to insulate ourselves from. So the things I'm talking about now are situations where we need some kind of protection from, some kind of insulation from, and those are boundaries. Those are boundaries that are needed. We just, like I said before, we just don't think about these sorts of things because they're not verbal, they're not intellectual. Okay. So how do you protect yourself in these sorts of situations that we can't really describe very well with words? Well, one thing that we're not very good at doing, but it would behoove us to try, is to plan and to foresee the possibility that we might be in these situations, so that we don't put ourselves in these situations, or that we remove ourselves from these situations, right? These people are starting to get into it. This isn't good for me. I'm getting out of here. Or if somebody's beginning to speak to you with a certain sort of tone in their voice that's triggering to you because it's disrespectful, you stop it. You remove yourself from the situation. And we don't have to justify our boundaries. And I feel like this is really important, that we are people that apologize too much. We apologize for taking care of ourselves. That, again, has to do with boundaries. So let me just back up for a second, because I'm getting ahead of myself. So protecting ourselves, we plan ahead, right? We figure, okay, we know we're going to this gathering where people are going to start arguing, so I'm going to leave before it starts. Or if such and so happens, this is what I'm going to do, that sort of thing. Or just avoiding a situation altogether. Whether there are people there that are not good for you, or whether there are just dynamics going on that you feel aren't okay with you. Okay. A couple of techniques, I started kind of delving into this subject of protecting ourselves in these sorts of non-intellectual ways, in these more energetic ways, because we're really reacting to the toxic energy of people around us. Okay, and so a couple of things that I forget all the time because I'm inconsistent. That's another topic for another day. But one thing I loved is that somebody told me once, she was a psychic medium, and she said that every day, she had a job that was really a corporate job that was becoming very toxic for her. Boss was like off the chain. And she said every day before she left for work, in her imagination, she zipped up her white light suit before she left the house. Or she put herself in a bubble. And this might sound ridiculous, but these things work because they put you in a state of mind of protecting yourself. So even if you're not really wearing a white light suit, you're in the state of mind of protecting yourself. Hi, Mary. What happens when it's your boss and you need the job? Yeah, that happened to me, abusive boss, but I needed the job. I also think that when stressed, we forget to set boundaries. Yeah, we forget when we're stressed. We just forget everything we learned, right? And this is part of our, I think, unique learning stuff, is that we do all this work on ourselves and get all these skills together, and then somebody looks at us the wrong way and we forget everything we ever learned. We got to get tough. We got to get tough. And yeah, we do need that job. I need my job too. And there have been some changes to my job that I freaking hate. And, I just think it's like we have to become these spiritual warriors. And what can we do about it? the filter of the serenity prayer that I always talk about. Is it something, are there any aspects of that are within your power to change? Whether it's changes that you can make within yourself, changes in your environment, changes with the way that you allow your boss to get inside your bubble. You know what I mean? We have to think about it also, not just in terms of how other people are messing with us. We have to think about it in terms of what we are allowing. Okay, because there's two pieces to this equation. I know the lighting is getting it's getting worse because it's getting dark. I'm sorry, I can't do anything about it. So there's what other people are doing, but there's what we are allowing and what we are doing. And that, for me, I don't know about you, but that's the part of the equation that I have to work on. And that has a lot to do with self-respect. I feel like we can stand up for ourselves without having to be in a confrontation. So I think we have to get creative. And I don't know if I don't know what your particular situation is, Mara, but we could talk about it. And maybe if you want to send me a note and tell me more about it, then on another live, maybe we can really get in depth about it more. So, do you say yes when you want to say no? That is a boundary. And that's something a lot of us do. And I would like to know why. I know why I've done it. I'm wondering why maybe you do it. What are we afraid of? Are we afraid somebody's not going to like us? Are we afraid that, what are we afraid of? I've said yes to my kids when I've wanted to say no. And for me, it did. I just wanted everybody to always think I was cool and nice. And I think that goes to the question of, do you want to be liked or do you want to be respected? It used to be that I wanted very much to be liked. And now it's like I'm 54 and I'm tired. And so I don't do that so much anymore. But yes, it is people pleasing. And here's what I want to say about people pleasing. Thank you for that. People pleasing means you don't have boundaries. People pleasing means that we are forfeiting ourselves. We are forfeiting our own boundaries. We are forfeiting our wants and needs for somebody else's. And that's actually my personal definition of codependency. It's when we forfeit ourselves and put somebody else before us. And sometimes that's healthy. Like if you have a relative that's very sick or somebody you love that really needs you, sometimes we just do that out of love. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when we behave that way out of a lack of self-respect. And a lack of self-respect equals a lack of boundaries. My opinion, my humble opinion. People pleasing and keeping the peace, wanting everyone to be happy, even if it is at your own cost. Yes, Erica, and you know what? That's some bullshit that has to stop. Yeah. I've always been afraid of confrontation. And now I know, like I've said before, say what you mean, but don't say it mean. I choose me today. If I do it the other way, that means that I'm choosing that other person, even if what they're doing is completely unacceptable, or even if it's just not good for me. And that's okay too. I'm not, it's funny, I work in court, but so this analogy is kind of funny for me, but we don't have to justify our position in a court of law. We don't have to justify anything to anybody at all. If you can't justify why you don't want to do something, for example, does that mean you have to do it? Does that mean you have to go against what you need or what you believe because you don't feel justified? No, it doesn't. So here's something that I've tried. It's sort of a little game, actually. I was wondering, can you say no without apologizing? Can you say no without saying, oh, I'm so sorry, but I just, I can't do that for you tonight because of 50,000 reasons. And also I have to give blood, Do you have to apologize? Or do you have to offer an excuse? So, okay, I don't want to just shine a light on the problem, but I'd like to also offer a couple of solutions. So somebody asks me to do something that I don't want to do, or if I feel if something is asked of me, or I'm in a position that I don't want to be in, or a situation that I don't want to be in, it's kind of all the same thing. Or if I don't really understand what's happening with me, but all I can tell you is that I feel anxious, or I feel upset, or I'm having some sort of physical, visceral reaction, I say no. Unfortunately, I can't. I mean, I think it'd be better if I didn't have to say unfortunately, but I still have to put a little disclaimer. Unfortunately, I can't. Why not? I just can't. Or I'm not able to. Why? I'm not able to because I don't freaking want to. But whatever. I don't have to justify it. That's my point. I'm not able to because I don't want to. But I'm just telling you I'm not able to. Or I'm just not comfortable. I'm just not comfortable. Or it's just a boundary I have, which is really kind of for you or me, maybe it would be like a real balls thing to say that. It's just a boundary I have. Just a boundary. I want to tell you a quick story. It's in Unwelcome Inheritance, and it's a story about how my daughter, when she was a teenager, actually it happened before she was a teenager. She was in, I don't know, fifth grade, and we had just moved up here, upstate. We lived up in Lake George, and she had this little friend from school. Let me tell you what, the first time I laid eyes on this little girl, I knew she was going to be the bane of my existence. I just knew it, right? You know how you know it? You put your eyes on some kid and you're like, oh man, this is the kid that's going to bring the cops to the house. Well, anyway, even though they were in fifth grade then, fast forward to high school, yeah, I was right. And there was one night where she wanted to go sleep over her friend's house. And everything inside of me said no. But I said yes. Why? Because I couldn't justify it. And my daughter made that very clear when I said, I'm not comfortable with it. She pushed my boundary. And she said, why not? Why don't you like her? Nothing's ever happened. Why are you like this? It's not fair. Blah, blah, blah. And I let her wear me down. Why? Because I engaged. I could have just said, I said no, love ya, bye-bye. But no, I said yes. And you know what happened? When she was supposed to be sleeping over her friend's house, 2:00 in the morning, the knock on the door, which it's never, if there's a knock on your door at 2 a.m, it's not going to be good. And who was it? It was the cops, and they were found somewhere they weren't supposed to be, and they were drinking, blah, 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 blah. If I had just gone ahead with, you know what? I'm just not comfortable with that. And not that I can explain why, but when I feel this uncomfortable about something, I'm never wrong. Sorry. Hate my guts. Anyway, I just kind of like that story. So I did mention before this whole idea of not so much that it's about other people's behavior toward us, but it's also how we advocate for ourselves when it comes to other people. Okay, and that boundaries equals self-respect. So, I know what else I wanted to say. I kind of did this before. Well, first of all, let me just peek at any comments. Hi, everybody. Yep, it feels selfish, but I left a situation and sat in the car while others dealt with it. I have to have self-talk. It's not selfish, it's self-care. Yeah. And you know what? And this is something that I'm going to be saying over and over and over. It's sort of my war cry. Get out of your head and get into your body. If you feel not good, if your insides are screaming at you in any way, that's all you need to know. That's it. And the answer to that is, I'm just not comfortable with this. Or, no. My mom was so funny. She used to say to people, you know how you say no? No. Anyway, I know. I don't mean to make light of it. It's taken me a very long time to say no. And when you've always been a yes person, when you've always been a doormat, whenever you've been that really nice person that everybody loves so much, right? Do you want to be liked or do you want to be respected? When you've always been that person and then you start having boundaries, you might get some pushback, especially, if that's a dynamic in your marriage or, or in your family or coworkers or whatever. I feel very blessed. I have really, I just have the most beautiful circle of people and family and relationships. When I draw back, my loved ones are telling me, have boundaries, especially my daughter who used to push them all the time. When I have boundaries with her, she's like, yeah, mom, and I have people in my life that say, you do you, girl, you do whatever you need to do. I'm here to support you. It shouldn't be so hard. If having boundaries is so hard, then who are we hanging out with? So I mean, some situations like work, I get it. We have limitations, but we can't be totally powerless. We can't be. Let's see. Did anybody else say something down there? No. Okay. So anyway, I thought it was kind of interesting. I took out Adult Children of Alcoholics, and I went through the characteristics, and there are more now, and I started writing about them. There are more, and I looked at them all through the filter of boundaries, and so it's so clear to me that boundaries are so important in every area of our life. Think about it. Our boundaries with ourselves, like I overeat. That's a boundary. Where are the limitations? Where's the line? Stop eating. It can be just as simple as that. Or it can be, I don't know, a million different things. It can be the way I treat myself. It can be the way I interact with other people. It can be everything from staying up too late or, letting other people verbally abuse me. Every area of our lives that we might be having an issue with or that we're uncomfortable with, think about the boundaries involved. There are always some that can be tightened up. It's pretty interesting. So I went through the characteristics here, and I thought, okay, adult children of alcoholics, guess what normal behavior is. Like, is that a boundary? Is it a boundary between us and them, that their normal is better than our normal? Like, is that a boundary? Like, where do I end and you begin? Following projects through, lying when it'd be just as easy to tell the truth. I don't know. Is that about boundaries? Is lying a boundary? Maybe it's the boundary of morality, maybe. Taking ourselves very seriously. I do think that's a boundary because it has to do with a lack of self-respect to a certain extent, that we're very hard on ourselves. And I think that's a boundary. That's a place where we can say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be hard on myself. I'm going to be kind to myself. In my view, that's a boundary. Difficulty with intimate relationships. Aren't relationships all about boundaries? Why do we have difficulty? Is it because we don't have enough boundaries? Is it because we have too many boundaries? Is it because our boundaries don't make any sense? Overreacting to changes over which we have no control. Overreacting, that's boundaries. If we're overreacting, if it's too much, we're going overboard, that's a boundary that we need to pull back. You see what I'm saying? So this whole topic of boundaries, it's something that many of us, we were never taught these things growing up because we were raising ourselves. Nobody ever said, that's enough. Nobody ever said, this is the way to do this. This is how you can handle this situation. Nobody ever taught us what boundaries were, how other people were allowed to treat us, how we could advocate for ourselves in situations. If we were being compulsive about certain things, that's addiction has all to do about boundaries, right? Because we're completely out of control. That's all about boundaries. Seeking approval and affirmation. And we talked about that a little while ago. Adult children of alcoholics constantly seek approval and affirmation. Why? Because we want to be liked. Why? Because we have no boundaries. Do you want to be liked or do you want to be respected? Goes back to the same thing. Adult children of alcoholics usually feel that they are different from other people. That could be about boundaries. Not really sure if I can articulate why. Adult children of alcoholics are super responsible or super irresponsible, right? It's extremes, right? When we have extremes, we need boundaries. We need to rein it in. Adult children of alcoholics, here's one that's definitely about boundaries. Adult children of alcoholics are extremely loyal, even in the face of evidence that the loyalty is undeserved. Is that not about boundaries? That is about forfeiting ourselves for somebody else who doesn't even remotely deserve it. Those are boundaries. That's a boundary issue. That is a total lack of self-respect. Totally. And then the last one, adult children of alcoholics are impulsive, right? Impulsivity is definitely a lack of boundaries, right? We can't control our impulses. We don't have boundaries. They tend to lock themselves into a course of action without giving serious consideration to alternative behaviors or possible consequences. This impulsivity leads to confusion, self-loathing, and loss of control over their environment or boundaries. In addition, they spend an excessive amount of energy cleaning up the mess. It's confusing, right? As I'm going through these and I'm putting them through the filter of boundaries, it feels confusing. And the reason why it feels confusing is because it's hard. It's hard to process these ideas. I really want you and myself too to take the time to think about how we treat ourselves and how others treat us and how we advocate for ourselves, how we take care of ourselves. Taking care of ourselves is all about boundaries. It's all about what is acceptable. So, comments, questions? We also did not learn we were valuable. That's right. And who's teaching us that we're not valuable? Is it our parents because they didn't take care of us? They neglected us, or maybe they said, I don't care about you, or the relationships that we repeated because that's what we learned. We just kept repeating this whole thing, creating possibly situations where we weren't valuable, right? That's about boundaries. It's about a lack of boundaries, which in my view is a lack of self-respect. Because if we respect ourselves, then we have boundaries. If we respect ourselves, then we accept what is acceptable. You see what I'm saying? Does anybody disagree? Usually there are more comments than this. Am I not making any sense? What's going on? Mary, talk to me. What are you guys thinking about right now? What are you thinking about? The most important thing I want to get across to you about this is, yes, is self-respect, but also the fact that we do not have to justify the way we feel. Period. Okay? Some of us don't have words, okay, because we are so highly sensitized in this kind of nonverbal situation. And that's why I say, just tune in. How do you feel? Not what do you think, how do you feel? Because most of us are much more feeling than we are thinking. And part of that has to do with trauma, right? When you're traumatized, you can't put thoughts together. But if you tune in, you will see. You feel that anxiety. You feel like maybe your heart starts to race, or you feel that sick feeling in the pit of your stomach, right? If you feel that, there's a boundary issue. I promise you. And all you have to do is remove yourself from the situation, advocate for yourself in the situation, protect yourself in some way. It's okay to do that. You do not have to justify it in a court of law or anywhere else. And if somebody is not respecting that, screw them. I don't care if it's, somebody you've been close to. I've had relationships dissolve after many, many years because I got healthier and I changed the dynamic. I changed the dynamic by saying no. I changed the dynamic because I felt that things were very out of balance. Maybe I was giving way more and I realized, you know what, why am I doing that? Am I giving too much because I'm afraid to find out that other person isn't going to reciprocate, that maybe they don't care as much as I think they do? And you know what? That's exactly what happened. I decided I had not to hold back, but I just had to ask for more. I had to ask for what I needed. And when I asked for what I needed, which was usually nothing, right? I don't need anything. I'm good. I don't need anything. No, I'm all good. And when I started to express what I needed, I could feel the relationship start to fall apart. That's all about boundaries. It's all about boundaries. It means we have to work on changing the messages we give ourselves. Yeah, we do. And you know what? We're the best people. Come on. How bad could we be? Really? I mean, would you let somebody treat your best friend the way you treat yourself? Would you let somebody talk to your best friend the way you talk to yourself? I doubt it. I doubt it. Candace says, I have been really working on boundaries and developing healthy relationships in my life for the past 5 to 10 years. Yeah. And you know what? I'm sure you're doing a great job. And don't ever feel guilty about it. Don't ever feel guilty about saying no. Don't ever feel guilty about doing what you need to do for yourself. We always feel guilty when we say no. Why? What about those people that they just do their thing? They do what they need to do. They don't feel bad about it. They just say, sorry, can't do it. Or, I'm not allowing this, or whatever. Some people can do that. It's the difference between people. But we struggle with that. We're wired that way. I just had to block someone in his evening because he was trying to guilt me into doing something I did not want to do. Well, I'm glad that you saw that's what was happening. And I'm glad that it didn't work. And that's really hard to do. And you know what? It's really hard to stick to, because this person is probably going to be back to try to push those boundaries and to wear you down. And this is where the the pedal meets the metal, or whatever you want to say. You know, it's hard enough to draw the line the first time, and then when we get pushed and we have to keep saying it over and over, right? Sometimes we get worn down and we just can't stand the discomfort, and we say, okay, whatever, you know. But really, if we're gonna heal this, if we are going to get past all of this ACOA crap, then we have to maintain our alignment. I'm speaking to myself just as much as I'm speaking to you, because I'm also, you know, I'm also bottoming out. I mean, I've hit different bottoms at different times, but I feel like this bottom that I'm at right now, this is, for me, a real turning point in my life. This is, you know, am I gonna have the life I want or not? You know, these are tests. These are tests that put us in a situation where we have to decide, do I choose me or do I choose you? Do I choose me or do I choose somebody who doesn't want me to choose me? What's up with that? That's why I'm on here, because I feel like if we do this together and we can support each other, then we can get past these blocks. It's just been, like I keep saying, it's just been for so many years. I've just been watching, you know, just observing all of this. And a lot of people are breaking through. Of course, a lot of people are breaking through, but not enough. Not enough, because, you know, from what I'm observing and the feedback that I get, which I really appreciate, because it tells me, you know, that my efforts are not being wasted. You know, what we've been doing just is not enough. It's not enough. So I'm here to push myself and to push you into just getting to the other side of this crap. You know, it's enough already. See, the thing is, and tell me if you relate, okay? We're so used to being passive and keeping the peace and not wanting to make waves and wanting everything to be a win-win-win, that when we express ourselves, even if we're not even saying no, when we find our voice, we feel like we're being overly aggressive. We feel like we're being confrontational. We're not. We're just being healthy. So if you say no, that doesn't mean you're being a bitch. It just means you're saying no. Other people can do it. Why can't we? If somebody says something to you or does something to you that's totally unacceptable, and you call them on it and you say, whoa, dude, oh no, do you see what you just did? No, I don't accept that. Do you feel overly aggressive? I have felt that way, right? But it's not. It's just drawing a boundary. It's just not accepting unacceptable stuff from other people. That's all it is. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about being overly, even if sometimes, because we've been pulling back so much for so long, sometimes maybe we will go a little overboard when we're just starting to find our voice. Maybe we will be a little overly emotional. Maybe we will be a little too angry or whatever. But we're going to learn how to moderate our emotions. And people that love us are going to be glad for that change. You know, but you're not being overly aggressive. You're not a basket case. One thing that really pisses me off is when, you know, like I would get upset about something that was upsetting, and then to be called crazy or, oh, here she's going crazy. You know, none of that is okay. None of it is okay. We're right where we're supposed to be. We're doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing. And let's just not be afraid. Let's not be afraid of how other people react. Let's not be afraid. Let's not worry about that. Okay? Like my dad said, and I love to quote my dad because he created this mess and now he's helping me to get out of it, which is highly unusual. But my dad said to me, you express yourself in a respectful, kind way, you are not responsible for that other person's reaction. And you know what? I'll add to that. Not only are we not responsible for that person's actions or reactions, we don't have to care about it at all. That's theirs. Unless it's like kind of a normal situation and you want to talk it through. But if I draw a boundary and you think I'm crazy and you want to judge me for it, that's a relationship that's either going to need to change or die. So, I'm feeling a lot better about the boundaries that I've been drawing. And, I've had a few really hard situations. It all seems like things happen at the same time. I've had a few really hard situations happening at once. I'm feeling very tested right now. And I'm choosing me. I really am. I'm choosing me. I'm so tired of just doing that same old thing. We are never going to have that life that we want or become who we are meant to be if we do all that old stuff. So we are all on the right track. I believe. Let's see. Anybody? Mary, I love the help quote. You are kind, you are smart, you are important. Yeah, really. We're so good. People should appreciate our greatness a lot more, don't you think? I'm not sure if that's an ACOA issue or a woman's issue or maybe both. I mean, it is probably both, and I'm sure there are plenty of men that have this issue too. I've tried to find ways of kind of opening up this whole conversation to everybody, and it's kind of hard. So if you have any ideas about how to do that, I'm totally open. But yeah, I mean, I think it applies to a lot of people. I think it applies to people from all sorts of walks of life that were hurt early on, or just didn't get the love they needed, or went through a lot of trauma, or were just born as very, very, very sensitive people. And we play that out. We just keep playing out the same old thing over and over. And speaking of that, I tell you a really funny story, something that happened a couple of weekends ago. Something my dad said to me that blew my mind. I'm saying it because it has to do with repeating the same things over and over and over. So I was out to lunch with my godmother and my dad, it was special to be together with the two of them. And so we're having this conversation over lunch, and my dad said something about his ex-wife, and we're talking about, my godmother was talking about her husband, and my dad said something about his ex-wife, and and I talked about a hard time I'm going through as well. And my dad says to me, Lise, this just proves that alcoholic parents, they just don't understand the impact they've had on us. They just can't possibly. He says to me, look, Lise, you've been married twice, you've been through this relationship, you've been through that relationship. What's the common denominator? And I was like, because of course, he wants me to say, the common denominator is me, Dad, it's me. But what I was thinking was, it's you. What are you even talking about? What's the common denominator, Lise? It's you, Dad, But anyway, it was just kind of funny because I repeat the same patterns over and over and over again, and just bringing it back to the topic of boundaries. Even the issues that I've had in my marriages and other relationships they have everything to do with boundaries. They have everything to do with self-respect. So, and I have a hard time, and maybe you do too, I will kind of come out of the gates. I'll say, okay, I'm going to do this now. And I will be that changed person. I will do that new behavior that I've promised I deserve. And then I'll revert back. I'll kind of go back into my shell. And, I feel like sometimes I have to start over and over again, but we do pick up momentum. We do pick up momentum. And the more we practice it, hi, Liat, it's my cousin, I love her. The more we do it, the more it feels like the right thing to do. So I think we're all going to get there. And it's about 5 minutes to 9. Let's see. Johnny, hi. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's all I got. I think that's all I got tonight. Any final remarks? Any questions? Any comments? Also, I want anybody that's on here. I don't know if my buddy Heather is on here, but feel free to promote yourselves on this page. I want all you people that I love to be seen, and I want people to know about you. And so feel free to put your links up here, talk about whatever you do. Go for it. All right. Okay, guys. Well, I guess I'm going to end a couple minutes early tonight, unless any burning desires. No? Okay. So just to quickly recap. Boundaries. You don't have to justify how you feel. You don't have to explain how you feel. You can say, unfortunately, I'm not able to do that. I'm not able to. I'm not comfortable with that. Boundaries have to do not just with the way other people treat you, but it's the way that you allow other people to treat you. And it's the respect, more than anything, it's the respect we show ourselves. Right? By who we allow into our lives, by how we allow other people to treat us, right? It's really, at the very end of the day, it's really about our self and having standards and expectations. What else? You can put on that, zip up that white light suit. Don't say yes when you want to say no. Okay? Because you're not wrong. And if you're just going on that gut feeling, your gut is never wrong. Your intuition is never wrong. I'm uncomfortable with that. Just say no. I'm uncomfortable with that. You know what? I can't explain it. All I know is that my gut's telling me no, and that's the end of that. When you put other people in front of yourself, you forfeit yourself. You forfeit yourself. You don't exist. You're making a statement that you don't even exist. That's a big boundary issue. No more of that. No apologizing for saying no. Okay, that's that. So I'm going to do my very best to live up to my own words tonight. I'm working on it. I know you are too. I appreciate that you're here. And I really appreciated that somebody sent me a note asking if everything was okay and am I going to be on tonight and stuff. I really appreciated that, because last week like I said, I didn't make it. I just had a hell day, and I just couldn't function. So if I don't come on a Thursday, I'll try to let everybody know, and I might just post some videos now and then in case I can't get on live. But we've got a thing going here, and I like to keep it going. Please PM me if you want to, your email addresses, so that I can let you know if I change formats or if I have to open a new page so that people can join, so that I can create a private group, that sort of thing. And also, please send me a message and let me know, or let me know right on here, how do you guys like to get your information? Are you an audiobook person? Are you a soft cover, hardcover person? Are you, do you like PDFs, videos? how do you want your information? Because I'm working on this book. I think I got some pretty kick-ass stuff to share. And like I said, Hazelden is not going to be publishing books for a little while, and I don't want to wait. So please let me know. And like that, okay? All right, thanks you guys. You know, I was really feeling like no energy, just really burnt out just about an hour ago. And I'm glad that I came on because you guys rock. Anyway, okay. Thanks, everybody. And if you see the replay come up, if you see the video come up, please share it around. Okay? I would really appreciate it. Have a great night, and I will talk to you soon.